Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody in between, Jason, welcome back to the Rundown, a 10-minute testing ripoff for Genesys format. Today I want to take a look at one of the worst archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Well, previous worst. A deck that historically has so many bricks, so many garnets, that it just never materialized anything real. It has spent some time at the rogue playability in lower powered formats, but with a wave of new support, a supplementary engine, and 0 points in Genesys format, I think we can do something real special with it. So, without further ado, please let me introduce to you Assault Mode.
Synchro what?
That's right, today we're taking a look at Assault Mode, one of the strangest archetypes mechanics introduced in the 5Ds era, where we take some of the signature monsters of the 5Ds protagonists, combine them with this Assault Mode Activate card, and then change them into quote-unquote more powerful forms. Historically, most Assault Mode cards were just bulk, or the rogue playable Stardust Assault Mode Turbo deck. It's also found its way as a Synchro engine with Reflector in the Assault Beast line, but even that wasn't too great. However, Konami's introduced a lot of brand new support cards that really try to fix the issues with their previous design choices. Cards that allow us to actually summon the Assault Mode cards on turn 1 and don't make the Assault Mode activate itself that much of a brick. Now, before we get into the card by card, I just want to say, I know there is a version deck that topped like a regional or something like that would played like Fire and Ascator and some cool tune stuff, but I would rather jump off a bridge than play Fire and Ascator. So I went ahead and looked for the next best thing, and that was to find an engine that gets us more starters. Our Assault Mode package contains 0 points across all of it. So I spent the points on a supplementary engine of the P.U.N.K cards, one of my favorite archetypes of all time, so I'd love to just shoehorn them in here. But I think what we can do is really bring the two synchro archetypes together to make a very flexible, powerful, explosive deck. I mean, honestly, what can really beat 2 Stardust Dragon Assault modes? It's practically 2 Dynamicious. So, to start off our card by card, we have our Assault package. That is the 2 Stardust Dragon Assault modes. If you're not familiar, the Stardust Dragon Assault mode is the best Assault mode card in the entire archetype. It is a soft, once per turn Omni Negate that tributes itself and reborn itself in the end phase. Very funny if your opponent is activating cards in the end phase along the lines of, say, the branded main phase 3, the Stardust Dragon Assault mode will keep coming back during the end phase to be able to then negate their effects again. We're on 3 of the new Crimson Blader Assault mode. Cannot be normal summon / set. Must be special summon with the Assault mode activate. Your opponent cannot activate the effects of level 5 or higher monsters special summon from the extra deck. You can reveal this card in your hand, add 1 Assault mode activate or 1 card that mentions from your deck to your hand, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. You can only use this effect of Crimson Blader Assault mode once per turn. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon 1 Crimson Blader from your graveyard. Notably, he does not ignore the summoning condition. 3 Reflector, the best normal summon in the deck, 2 Assault Sentinel, the card to find the best normal summon in the deck, and an Assault Lich, a brand new card. If this card you control will be used as synchro material, you can treat it as a non-tuner. You can only use each of the following effects of Assault Lich once per turn. If this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon 1 monster that mentions Assault Mode activate or 1 level 4 lower zombie monster from your graveyard. This card, since the graveyard is synchro material, you can add 1 Assault Slash or Assault Counter from your deck to your hand. We'll usually be going through the Assault Lich in the uninterrupted turn 1 combos, but as you can see from the main deck, we actually are keeping the counter trap in the side just because it's a little brickier when going first. Following that, we're on 1 copy of Assault Beast, one of the soft garnets we have in this deck, and then we're on 3 copies of the brand new field spell Dual Evolution Assault Zone. This is the card that does everything. When this card is activated, you can add 1 monster that mentions Assault Mode activate from your deck to your hand. Slash Assault Mode monsters cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects the turn they are special summoned. You can pay 2,000 life points once this turn. The synchro monster you attribute to activate the Assault Mode activate can be chosen from your extra deck instead, even if this card has left the field. You'll use this effect of Dual Evolution Assault Mode once per turn, and you can only activate 1 Dual Evolution Assault Zone per turn. So like I said, this is the card that does everything. This lets us summon our Assault Modes on turn 1. This lets us search our best normal summon in Reflector, or if we need a different extender, we can find the Assault Sentinel, the Assault Lich, or the Assault Beast. We're on 2 copies of the Assault Mode activate. I've seen a lot of decks play 3 of these, but after testing, even with just 2, somehow I'd always open 1. and I definitely don't want that happening. Now, onto our P.U.N.K package. We're on 3 copies of a No P.U.N.K Foxy Tune, 1 copy of No P.U.N.K Ogre Dance, 1 copy of No P.U.N.K Rising Scale, 1 No P.U.N.K Deer Note, and 1 No P.U.N.K Z Almond. A little bit of a bias, these are some of my favorite cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I think they fit very nice in this deck, with Foxy Tune being another 1 card combo, well, 1.5 card combo because you also need to discard for the deck. Now, you'll notice that the Foxy Tunes are 7 points, the Rising Scale is 3 points, so that leaves a lot of points left over, which you can see is spent on a lot of non-engine. We're on 3 copies in the Nibiru, 3 Molcharmy Fulos, 3 Ghost Battle Haunted Mansion, 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbits, 3 DD Crows, and 2 Cosmic Cyclones in the main. We really have to fear Dimensional Fissure and such, so we really need a card like Cosmic Cyclone in the main to make sure that we're taking those out. Now onto the extra deck, we have a bunch of a variety in the extra, actually a lot of different levels. Because of the level modulation effect of Psy Reflector, we have a big toolbox of extra deck cards we can play around with. So we're on 1 Legacia, 1 Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon, Jiraishin the Cursed Thunder God, Ukiyo P.U.N.K Amazing Dragon, Navy Dragon Mech, Draco Berserker the Tenyi, Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, Crimson Blader, Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, one of our new cards for the Assault archetype. We have Nightwing Cleric. If this card is special summon, you can set 1 Assault mode activate from your hand, deck, or graveyard. It can be activated this turn. You can discard 1 card, add to your hand, or special summon 1 monster from your deck that mentions Assault mode activate. Also, you cannot special summon the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Synchro monsters. Again, one of the most important cards in the deck. She is what finds us the Assault mode activate, set on the field, and then activate that very same turn to get out our Stardust Dragon Assault mode. Or if we're feeling some sort of way, we summon the Crimson Blader Assault mode to floodgate the opponent. We're on 2 copies of Stardust Dragon. Finally, we're on 1 Black Rose Dragon and 1 P.U.N.K Jam Fever. Yes, we will be locked by the Nightwing Cleric effect into just Synchro monsters, but if we lead with the P.U.N.K 1 card combo, we'll be making Jam Fever before we're ever even locked. Now onto the side deck, we have 1 copy of the Assault Counter, 3 Dark Ruler No More, 3 Artifact Lancia because I fear Monarchs, 3 Blizzard because I fear Dimensional Fissure, 3 Gamseo, and 2 Skullmeister. The non-engine here and the side deck are not mandatory includes. You can change these up as much as you want. I just picked what I felt was the best for what I was most scared of, mostly being Monarchs, any deck that just wants to slam Dimensional Fissure, and any of the other sort of towers or floodgatey decks. So, with all that said, why don't we check out some games? Alright, here we are. Game number 1, our opponent is on Paleo. Paleo, pretty powerful deck in Genesys format. In IRL events, it's a little bit weaker to the fact that you can go into time, but it's a pretty big powerhouse in the online formats. So we're going to go ahead and go first. We're going to go ahead and activate the effect of our No P.U.N.K Foxy Tune, summoning the Z-Almond, discarding the Assault Sentinel from our hand. We're going to activate Z-Almond's effect to add Rising Scale. Rising Scale is going to summon itself by banishing the Foxy Tune, and then summon from deck a copy of Deer Note. We're going to Synchro Summon the Nightwing Cleric, and then trigger a whole bunch of effects, triggering the Deer Note to bring back the Z-Almond and chain blocking with Z-Almond to give attack to the Rising Scale. Then we're going to make Jiraishin. Quick aside, at this point I was actually misreading the Jiraishin and I thought he could destroy face down spell traps. Whoops, didn't really need to make him here. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and summon the Cyber Reflector and then activate the field spell, getting ourselves the Assault Beast. We're going to go ahead and use the Assault Beast to find Assault Mode activate. Then reveal that Assault mode, activate with the effect of Psy Reflector, summoning back the Assault Beast and changing its level to 7. We're going to then fire the field spell to make sure that we can actually summon a Stardust, make Draco Berserker the Tenyi, and then use Nightwing Cleric to summon the Assault Lich and then bring back the Beast. We're going to make a Stardust Dragon, because we do have 2 Assault mode activates in our hand, summon a Stardust. As you see, this is actually a game number 3, so we've sided in the counter trap. And we're just going to set those in pass. We're going to summon the second Stardust Dragon Assault mode, and then boom, here we have our end board. We have the Nightwing Cleric, who's just kind of chilling, 2 Stardust Assault modes, Draco Berserker the Tenyi, and 1 Jiraishin, which I did not know the proper effect of. Anyway, our opponent's just going to set 5, because hey, that's Paleo, brother. And we draw a Lancia for turn. Not good. I was kind of hoping they would do turn 1 plays. They're going to go Druma Karma Cannon. They're going to then fire Needlebug Nest, they're going to negate it, and boom, the Draco Tail Sting to take out our Stardust Assault mode, and then that's it. You see, the problem here is that, sure, you can take out 1 Stardust Assault mode, but the second one's coming back as many times as possible, and then 3K, 31, and 25 is actually just game if those 2 back row can't stop battle. Game number 2, and our opponent this time is on Primite Odeon. Bit of a TCG jump scare deck that's won multiple events in the TCG, just somehow showing up in Genesys. That's pretty crazy. Odeon itself is, of course, a big powerhouse in Genesys. People are very afraid of the Odeon deck, but let's see what Assault Mode can do here. You can see we open the P.U.N.K cards again, and then we open one of our soft garnets. So, well, let's go ahead and activate Dual Assault Field Spell, and then get Side Reflector. We're going to go ahead and normal summon the Side Reflector, activate its effect to get the Assault Beast. We're going to use the Assault Beast effect, discarding itself and getting Assault Mode activated. Yeah, remember this one? So let's reveal that. I'm sorry, we're going to go Foxy Tune, discarding our Ghost, Bell, and Haunted Mansion to summon Z Almond. Going to get the Rising Scale and activate the effect. And then realize we can't summon Deer Note from hand. We're actually supposed to discard the Deer Note because Deer Note can be revived from graveyard with Rising Scale, but not from hand. We're going to DD Crow our Z Almond so we do not get her back, but that's fine. The most important thing is that we still have this Synchro on field so we can make the Jam Fever. Now we'll go ahead and reborn the Assault Beast now that their DD Crow is out of the way. I know this guy was just slinging hand traps. This is also like a game 2 or 3. So this guy was just been slinging hand traps the entire time. Anyway, Nightwing Cleric to summon the Assault Lich effect to reborn the Assault Beast, and we're going to synchro those off Excel, start a Synchro Dragon. This was a play. Alright, this was a play I've been doing a bunch during the testing. The idea is you have the you end on the Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, so you can quick synchro on the opponent's turn to give your synchros the unaffected effect, and then also to have a little more access to your flexibility. Later, I did kind of realize it wasn't the best to leave yourself open like that, and you're probably better off just having both of the Stardust Assault modes on your board. Anyway, we're going to bring back the Side Reflector, set our cards, and pass turn. They're going to lead off with a 7th attack and reveal Giant Hand to add the man with the mark. Not worth the negate. We'd rather negate the man himself or the field spell if they have it. So I'm just going ahead and summon the man and we'll Assault counter that, and I guess that's all they had. A quick game, a very quick game, but when you set up these big boards of multiple Omni negates like this Assault Mode deck does, if they can't gas through it, they'll just scoot. Now, all right, we're back with deck, and hey, that's pretty good. Sorry there's only 2 replays there. That one Odeon player is pretty much the only other person I even found on ladder, besides the Paleo player. So, slim pickings for what we can actually feature as footage here. I would say, hey, this deck looked pretty good. But let's talk about the pros and cons. Let's start with the cons, actually. So, obviously you saw both those games was me going first. This deck struggles really hard with going second. Big problem being that a lot of our starters in the actual Assault Mode part of the deck are kind of normal summons. We don't have access to the 35 points for Emergency Teleport, so it's really hard to make things happen when your Side Reflector or Assault Sentinel just get negated. We also have to keep the Assault Mode activated in the deck, even when going second, so we are kind of screwed if we open too many of those and not enough gas. We are also hurt very hard by board breakers. A card like Dark Ruler No More completely ends our day if we don't have the counter trap. At the very same time, if we ever only end on one singular Starter Dragon Assault Mode, we are a prime victim for the side deck kaijus, which most decks are playing. There's also been an issue with the deck in terms of the grind game. As it stands, Assault Mode activate once it's spent is usually gone forever. It's difficult to even get the card back without going into your second Nightwing Cleric if you can even get that far in the first place. As well, the end phase effect of Stardust Dragon Assault Mode to reborn itself is prime fodder for DD Crows and Skullmeisters because it is an activated effect. But let's talk about the pros. First of all, obviously, like we saw in those 2 games, when you put down 2 Stardust Dragon Assault Modes, it's pretty hard for the opponent to play through that. Genesys format is in its core a lower power format that doesn't really play around super Omni negates. This deck not only plays those super powerful Omni negates, but it also all costs 0 points. So our biggest strength is the big wide array of non-engine that we're allowed to play. This version also has a lot more starters with less hard garnets than other versions of the deck. The P.U.N.K cards make for a great way to start, being able to special out our plays rather than normal summoning, as if we still had E-Telly. Also, our Crimson Blader Assault Mode, it didn't come up in those games, it didn't really come up in testing at all, but this is a fierce fierce floodgate. As it stands, I think for now I'm happy with the version of deck we have. Maybe in the future with more support, or maybe if there's any more synchro engines that come out that aren't pointed to hell and back, we could take a look at this deck for Genesys once again. With all that said, I want to leave you with this. A wise man once said, the new Assault Mode deck is still Assault Mode. Alright? Thank you for watching. Goodbye.